So far, we've seen tiny robots capable of big things, performing eye surgeries and targeting individual tumors. But all these microbots require specific direction by the doctor. What if they didn't have that limitation? I'm heading to MIT, where bots are being built that can find their way to a tumor all on their own. It's a development that may revolutionize cancer treatment, and it's being pioneered by Sangeeta Bhatia and Jeff von Moltzen. What's wrong with how we treat cancer today?
Well, the drugs that we take to treat it go throughout your whole body and are systemically causing toxicity. So that's why your hair falls out, that's why you get incredibly sick, that's why it's challenging for people to even maintain their work life or care for their families.
What we have in our kind of arsenal is basically poison. And the poison goes everywhere, and that's why we get the side effects.
It's sort of like you know you have a fire in the wastebasket, but putting it out by flooding the building may not be a good idea.
It's a great analogy.
That's a good analogy.
So, Jeff, to selectively deliver these poisons only to the cancer cells, are you using some kind of microbot to do that?
What we're using is smaller than a microbot.
These aren't microbots, they're nanobots, almost 500 times smaller than the ones we saw in Montreal, and a staggering 15,000 times smaller than the ones Joanne saw in Zurich.
So these are the two particles that we use. This is the first population of particles.
To give you a sense for how small they are, 100 of them, end on end, would be as thick as a sheet of paper. So they're really tiny.
There's consequences to getting smaller. So it's not like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where you keep all the complexity of something large, it's just now small. One of the consequences is that it's much more challenging to engineer complexity at an individual scale.
Maybe for clarity, it's not just that a nanobot is 1,000 times smaller than a microbot. You're saying we want to be so simple and so small that, for instance, think of these as just little particles. They don't have a lot of systems. They're just little particles, but there could be a trillion of them. And if each particle, for instance, is so small but was biologically activated in some way, it can then be carried to attach itself only to the target cells that you're looking for. And its smallness and its simplicity become its virtue, not its limitation.
So these first particles, they're made entirely of gold. They're able to absorb a special wavelength of light.
Here's how it works. A mouse with cancerous tumors gets injected with trillions of these first particles, which go throughout the body. 90% of them will miss their target, but a few percent will land on the tumor. At that point, a harmless laser is shined on the mouse.
So we actually use a laser that's specifically tuned to emit light that these particles will absorb and convert into heat. So the particles find the tumor, they act as antennas to take this laser light and convert that locally into heat. That heat then causes a local biological change.
It'll only heat up the particles that are in the tumor. It'll heat them up enough that it essentially makes a blister. And that's going to release certain kinds of biological information that, hey, I'm a blister. Now you send in a second set of nanobots, but this set of nanobots has the property that it goes after any cell that's telling you, I've got a sunburn here. And that nanobot goes to that sunburn cell. When that second nanobot gets there and sticks to it, it opens up, and that second nanobot releases the chemotherapy that says, you think you had a blister before, now you've got chemotherapy. And it kills those tumor cells. The concentration of chemotherapy at the tumor is 4,000 times higher than it would be if you just gave the person a dose of that same chemotherapy and it went through their whole body. If this success is duplicated in humans, it could mean the difference between life and death for thousands of people. And their next generation of nanobots will need no guidance from a laser.
Where I think this is going is when we scale up to a human as opposed to a mouse, what we'd really like to do is get rid of the light and have a system where the nanoparticles find the tumor all by themselves to achieve the same end result, but cutting out the light from it. So that's exactly the phase of research that this is in right now.
In the next 50 years, I do think that the way that we treat cancer will change completely. The convergence of engineering and biology is a new era for medicine that has already begun.
So these two could be at the forefront of a real medical revolution here.
Where do you think this stuff's going to take us? Where do you think we're heading with it?
There will clearly come a day when microbots are circulating in and throughout your body, doing jobs that right now we don't know how to do. Keeping your arteries clean, supplying nutrients, getting rid of toxins.
Isn't that somehow a little bit scary, though?
Well, all new technologies are a little scary to some people. I mean, I'm sure 5,000 years ago, fire freaked some people out. Nanotechnology is just the latest new chapter in the human effort to expand our capability. We call that progress.